Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of our Day One and Beyond series, where we take you through various topics and activities related to building out on Oracle Cloud. Our session today will cover introduction to Oracle Cloud Security, the solutions that are available today, what's planned next, some advantages customers have, and how easy it is to get started. This session is being recorded, and you'll be able to find the recording on Oracle Cloud Customer Connect. You can also find the recordings and slide decks of our previous sessions there as well. I'd like to introduce Andre and Josh as our main presenters. And now I'll hand it over to Josh and Andre to begin today's session.
And today we're going to start off on a different topic that I really think is core to the journey here. And it's the core at the beginning of every cloud journey, but it's actually the journey that every customer takes working with any other vendor or organization. And it's the idea of trust. And our customers have used us and trusted us to store data in their Oracle databases, to run critical workloads on Oracle Cloud, and honestly run good chunks of their business and finances in Oracle applications. So it's really important for us to focus on how to do trust. And every interaction that people have with their customers is what we use to understand how they're handling their data. And that is what trust comes to be. How you handle in our case, the data you've given us to be the custodian of. Now, governments and industries and regulations to help with this create mandates, things like data should be encrypted, data must be protected, you should use strong authentication. And those things end up turning into a human idea of regulations and compliance frameworks. And what those provide is this ability to allow the vendor to understand what customers would like to see and then allow a third party and intermediary to do the verification. So there is idea of trust, and there's the ability to use the regulations in those bodies to provide the ability to understand that they are there. And Oracle has been at the center of the trust business since we started with the government in the 1970s, and we've handled more sensitive data than probably any other organization in the world, from our database all the way up to our leading cloud platform today. And we're going to continue to double down on it. But trust is not earned in a day. Trust is earned every day, over and over again. Trust isn't something that you can set and forget. It requires attention, analysis, and ongoing efforts. There's no tool or tools that just give you trust. There's a set of people, policies, operations, practices, and technologies that all work together to help to minimize risk to acceptable levels while still allowing the business to flow at normal speeds, and in today's space, even faster than normal. And building trust is kind of like caring for a garden. You know, there's a significant amount of daily effort and attention that needs to be taken to ensure that grows properly and it is trusted. Fundamentally, when it comes to cloud computing, trust is built on the foundation of security practices and capabilities. The focus of this session, as you'll see, is how you can apply security controls and practices to your workloads in OCI and understand some of the concepts and controls that we have put into place to allow you to do that, and how we continue to operate our organization. At the end of this session, we'll have a slide that has a variety of links where you can see our trust center, our compliance center, our privacy features, as well as security architecture documents. And Oracle's approach to security is one of the most unique I've seen. And it starts with this concept of a three-tiered approach: simple, effortless, deeply integrated, and complete control. And simple and effortless really comes down to the point where if there is something that can be automated or enabled as simple as a box, we will do it. And I always use this example of when I talk about shared responsibility, which we'll get to shortly. When you put data in an Oracle object storage bucket, by default, we're encrypting it with our own managed keys, and it's always on. So that means the data address there is always encrypted. Once again, we didn't want to make you have to think through it. Now you can have the ability, I'm going to go over to complete control, to decide that, well, I actually want to control exactly who owns that encryption key. So I want to use my own encryption key, and you'll see that we have a variety of options to choose. But the idea here is that even though it's simple and effortless, we want to give you the complete control where you need it. And this idea of being deeply integrated is actually the thing that connects these pieces. Because Oracle is delivering their features and services not only across IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS in our own cloud, we're delivering it across cloud environment providers all over the board, whether it's Azure, GCP, or AWS. And we want to make sure that those controls that you'll use in their solutions, as well as ours, all work seamlessly together to make it straightforward for you to secure your applications. So the shared responsibility model, once you leave your own on-premises data centers, really goes back to that idea of trust. The idea that the cloud provider at some level is responsible for providing it. And that is straightforward to see in certain cases, and sometimes in other cases, you have to look at the level and the application and the association to it. So when you think about how to start to monitor and secure and deploy your applications in OCI, you need to understand what type of service you're using on us to understand what level of responsibility you have versus the cloud provider. And that's the idea of shared responsibility. It's a partnership between you and Oracle to ensure that your environments are secure and that your customers can trust you. And Oracle actually manages a global 24/7 security operations center. I had to look up this morning whether this year was a leap year or not, because I can now say we monitor it 24/7, obviously every day of the 365, but it's not a leap year, so I can't say 366. And we're monitoring it in a follow the sun approach globally, monitoring across all of our cloud infrastructure. But if you can look at our security organization, the visibility and the level of it is at the board of directors level. And then from there down, we ensure that security is both a pillar across the board, but also ingrained into each business unit driving their services. And this allows the teams to have consistent processes, technologies, and tools, but also understand their business and their customers to deliver that award-winning support. And the idea here too is that Oracle itself, depending on the environments and the places that you're deploying, can even restrict its own operations associated to your data. And we deploy these regions, which is where customers host their clouds globally. I always put this slide up, and I'm always amazed with how many more regions we deploy. And I think one of the most interesting things you'll see as we talk later about how we do this is that our deployment architecture is very unique in how we deploy out our cloud infrastructure, which allows us to deploy these regions very quickly. Now, we talked about control at the beginning, and control isn't just about the tools and the features we give you. We allow you to define at what level do you want to control the infrastructure or control the services. So what does that mean? So in a normal public cloud experience, you get all the capabilities, all the services, and it's just delivered, right? You saw all those regions, you pick your favorite region. Maybe you want to be in London because that's where your data should reside, and you deploy it out there. You control where your data resides. You pick your region. But let's say you're in a bit more regulated space and you want to make sure that, well, I know that the commercial cloud is connected to other regions. Someone could, if they did a bunch of effort, maybe you figure out a way to use it, or maybe you want to completely isolate it to your government sovereign area. We have the ability to have sovereign regions, meaning that these are separate from our commercial cloud, where customers can decide to deploy more workloads that are governed through either government regulations or sovereign requirements. But in addition, we could actually even deliver you specific services inside of your own data center, things like Exadata Cloud at Customer, where we will deploy Exadata in your environment that you can use with the ability to control it through the normal cloud services and treat it just like a normal cloud service you would in the cloud, but you would have the data center. You would have the databases in your data center. And you could do a similar thing with cloud OCI compute on premises and even at the edge locations. We then also went a step further and wanted to give customers the ability to create their own dedicated regions in their that are completely dedicated to them, isolated and air gapped, so that they can run in their own space, completely separate. And then we also provide this really unique feature, the ability of what we call Oracle Alloy, where a partner can actually manage the cloud for other customers. And this is a really interesting opportunity for where certain companies or organizations might want to provide cloud services and clouds for other entities in regions where we might not have regions today. And we want to make sure that these regions and our infrastructure is highly available. And this high availability starts at the regional level and breaks down into availability domains inside the regions. And an availability domain, I like to kind of think of it like a data center. And basically, a region may have anywhere between 1 to 3, sometimes more availability domains. And each availability domain, obviously, because they're separate buildings, are closely connected, but are separate and isolated. But even inside that individual availability domain, we have another concept called fault domains. And a fault domain is completely separate servers and racks with power, cooling, internet that are themselves separate from each other so that one server rack in a fault domain could fail and the two others would be able to operate. So the idea here is that there's multiple layers of failover from regions to availability domains to fault domains. And this allows us to provide SLAs on performance, manageability, and availability to our customers. Once again, knowing that you have these SLAs helps provide some forms of trust, and we want to make sure we deliver it by providing this unique architecture. And the unique architecture part to me is actually the really fun part. And this to me is how Oracle was able to deliver our infrastructure so quickly and so efficiently. We call this our Generation 2 cloud. And the core parts of it start with a hardware root of trust. And I think it's funny because, once again, trust. But this is basically the idea that all of the software that gets deployed out from the firmware that's running the cloud from bare metal, that's running the things on the virtual network interfaces or the physical network interfaces, are all fully signed and trusted, meaning we know the source of the code that was deployed, the firmware and the software, so that we can understand it. And we set all of these pieces up at different layers to provide the ability to make sure that they are connected. And I'll use an example of, say, network isolation here. So even in our bare metal, where you get almost the entire infrastructure to yourself, the network card itself is separate. And the network card itself has checks to see whether it should send data from one location to another. But we also have that same check at the physical isolated network virtualization layer, where that also is going to check if that packet is allowed to go where it's going. And then even when it lands on those virtual instances on the right side, we're going to once again check for it. And this type of infrastructure is available in all of our regions. This is what we've built our cloud on. And because it's hardware root of trust, and because we're always automatically signing and installing these and refreshing the images when we redeploy, it's a very automated deployment of our infrastructure for us. And we provide you with the ability to actually almost mimic the way Oracle delivers services to customers by giving you something called compartments. And this is actually where compartments are where your side of the shared responsibility comes in, right? You're going to get all these great features whether you ask for them or not. This is how we run our cloud. This is the way we want to secure it and operationalize it and deliver. But compartments allow you to decide what the scope of your policies and boundaries for IAM are, identity and access management. And it also allows you to segregate environments. And it also allows you to cost and track and budget. And believe it or not, a compartment even ends up being parts of a tenancy. And a tenancy simply is a collection of compartments. We call it the root compartment. And believe it or not, Oracle uses those same compartment structures and those same designs inside of its own delivery services for cloud. And this goes back to that whole piece too about what we decided to do. We also know that because it is your data. You want to ensure that it's encrypted. And the encryption isn't something that we just simply do with the network. And then by default, we uh, encrypt our links between our regions. We also provide you the ability to choose if you want to encrypt, provide memory assurance by doing memory encryption on our isolated instances. And then we also provide you with the opportunity to decide what key management flavor you want. And I always find this one, as a fun one because you can have your own dedicated HSM from us. You can have a multi-tenant HSM, which is kind of the default, or you can actually bring your own Thales key system as well as others. And this really gives customers the ability to really make those decisions about the level of trust they want to provide to the cloud provider and the level of responsibility, right? Because the more trust you give to the cloud provider means they are more responsible for providing uptimes and availability and connectivity versus what you choose to do, right? If you are holding more pieces, you become responsible for more activities. So that's how this wonderful opportunity of where you can control and have complete control of how you can control access to your data from this perspective. Now, this to me is I believe it's attributed to Ronald Reagan, the trust but verify approach. Oracle maintains 84 plus compliance regimes, of which the reports are available directly for you in your console. So meaning you don't have to go email somebody or ask, you can go into the console under compliance and pick your report. And you'll notice that there's the idea of regions and governments and industries, and the idea here, and then there's global. And the idea here is that, for example, something like CST for Saudi Arabia or IRAP for Australia, those reports will only be available in the regions that are running it. And what's really unique about OCI is that the regions that you run in are decided by you. By default, you only start in your home region, and then you have to actively add on new regions. So once again, regional controls, everybody's governed by the standards underneath. And then we have governmental controls, whether it's for different sovereign or government realms. And then we have industry standards. If you're looking to get your PCI DSS, which is actually a global one, we should probably put it on the bottom, but we put it under industry. All those are available depending on where you're running and where you would need them for your organization. And the other unique thing about a lot of these compliance controls and the idea is that a lot of these controls follow this idea of crosswalking to the CIS regimes. And the CIS is the Center for Internet Security. They're a global organization focused on delivering both frameworks as well as benchmarks. Benchmarks are like the how do I actually twist these knobs and turn these dials kind of thing, making sure you turn that to the right level. And they provide full crosswalks across over 40 plus frameworks. So meaning you could take the CIS framework 8.1 and you could say, well, I want to know how it maps to NIST or HIPAA or PCI. And you can actually go grab their spreadsheet and they maintain those mappings. So this is, believe it or not, how a lot of compliance programs start. They start as you do one control framework and then you crosswalk it to the others. And this is why we really enjoy using CIS and recommending it to our customers for their side of the shared responsibility model, because that provides them with a lot of guidance and helps them crosswalk to a variety of controls frameworks. Now, obviously, to help you secure your environment, we provide you with a variety of security tools. And we do our best to make sure that security, once again, being simple and effortless, also isn't something we want to overly charge you for. A lot of these services on this screen are included, like security zones or CloudGuard for the basic checks, our security lists, our private service access points, our Bastion service. All of these services are included because we want you to use them. And there are some services where there's a cost to run or manage or operationalize it for us, meaning there's infrastructure we have to run. It's things like network firewall, or like you'll see in the certain types of key management. Because for those things, right, we have to, private HSM costs money, right? These are physical devices that we have to run. So you'll see that across the space, we have a set of tools to kind of cover you for everything, whether it's a set of preventative compliance controls, like security zones, landing zones, which Andre is going to talk about, the landing zones piece, application firewalls, the ability to monitor your environment from a logging and auditing perspective, whether it's the cloud, even database auditing, as well as even full stack observability and management. We also provide you with a variety of controls to provide mitigation. And mitigations are things that you can use to control from both a network perspective, but as well as um, from a connectivity perspective, meaning bastion access is a mitigation where you can make sure that you don't have to have public SSH. You can go through the console. We also provide you with this hardware enabled built-in security architecture that you can benefit from. So in the same way that we deploy out our infrastructure and automate it, we have the ability to use things like Oracle Autonomous Linux to help automate your patching and updating of your Linux software. You'll see that the images that you'll have access to have a variety of pre-included hardened images as well as a variety from our marketplace players, which you'll see. And once again, I said you have a variety of options on how to encrypt your data, and we provide you with not only different ways to access your environment through federation and policies and OCI identity access management, but in the more kind of included space, we have the ability of access governance to help govern your identity environments. And that access governance is not just in your own Oracle Cloud environment. This can include your Oracle SaaS environment. This can include your on-premises environments as well as others. It's designed to be a full access governance suite across the space. But just like everything else in life, there's not one solution. And due to that, we have a variety of partners that have the ability to enrich and enhance the security experience on Oracle. And this is extremely important, especially in today's world of multi-cloud, where our customers are running multiple clouds. And to have a single pane of glass for certain environments is extremely straightforward. It helps reduce some of the knowledge and burden required to learn every single cloud vendor and every single alert type when you can standardize on industry standards or third-party tools that will help abstract some of that for your security team so that your security team can understand the high-level conceptual idea, and then they can ask the centers of excellence that are running each cloud on how to mitigate it. And you can see that we have a similar set of partners across the space, and I'm hoping you'll see a lot of the partners that you have that you work with in your own environment today up on the screen from a security perspective. And I might not have them all here, so I definitely recommend if you're curious, if your partner works with Oracle Cloud, reach out, ask them. They will probably tell you yes, and they will probably have a doc on it available to you. So I think the real question that comes out of this, and I'm going to leave it to Andre at this point, is how do you put all this stuff together from the tools, from the shared responsibility model to the partner solutions? So I'm going to turn it over to Andre to hopefully explain all of that to us.
Exactly. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, cloud security, right, is the shared responsibility model. So, and to help our customers with their cloud security responsibilities, we have developed this OCI Landing Zones framework. The framework is security-centric, is free to use, and it encapsulates some common OCI design patterns and deployment best practices. It's basically your runway into the Oracle Cloud, where you can then land your workloads with confidence. And additionally, it sets your tenancy up with a compliance baseline based on Center for Internet Security Foundation's benchmark for OCI that we examine deeper in this next slide. CIS Foundation's benchmark is currently on version 3 and covers these domains that we have on the screen, right? Identity and access management, networking, logging and monitoring, storage, and asset management. The cool thing about the benchmark is that it provides very concrete guidance for the implementation of security controls. And secondly, it maps to the overall CIS framework that's currently in version 8. And the CIS organization itself, Center for Internet Security, provides the mappings between the CIS framework to other industry frameworks like NIST, PCI DSS, HIPAA. So one can easily crosswalk back and forth between the benchmark and any framework of choice. Now to the landing zones framework. The landing zone framework essentially defines blueprints, extensions, and workloads, all sitting on top of a set of Terraform modules that actually do the OCI, the provisioning of OCI resources. Blueprints, they define the basic architecture and they can be augmented by extensions. An extension is an example, an extension example is a specific hub-spoke network configuration with a particular network appliance. Workloads are the required services for running your applications. Examples of workloads are like compute instances, GPU clusters, Kubernetes clusters, Exadata cloud service, databases in general, streaming. And one particular thing, that differentiates these modules, right, that we see at the bottom here on the right-hand side, is that they expose a JSON or YAML and YAML interface, allowing our customers to declare the landing zones without any Terraform knowledge, right? So we try to make the creation of landing zones, right, in any shape and form very easy. So now talking about the blueprints, we offer two fundamental blueprints in the framework today. There is the OCI core landing zone and what we call operating entities landing zones. The core landing zone is a generic and prescriptive blueprint that implements the CIS benchmark and OCI architecture best practices, all within a single box. If you're like if you've been following the CIS landing zone and OCI landing zones, right? You see that the core landing zone, it unifies what we used to know as the CIS landing zone and the OCI enterprise landing zone in a single code base. So it's a unification. And it's also 100% Terraform based in a single pre-assembled extensible module. Operating entities landing zones are a little bit different because they are a set of fully customizable blueprints for onboarding organizations and their functional divisions like subsidiaries, departments, projects, lifecycle environments. They're also 100% Terraform based, and the landing zones are assembled by customers using the modules, right? Those modules I spoke about in the last slide as Lego bricks. One common and very prominent blueprint is the service provider's landing zone. That's linked at the bottom here. It is basically a full-fledged and fully customizable tenancy implementation for an OCI customer that provides service to their own customers, right? In a service, in a SaaS fashion. So, but let's dig a little bit more what's in the core landing zone, right? Terraform automation. So basically we have the CIS benchmark recommendations, the big bubbles, right? And the landing zone add-ons, the little bubbles. For the benchmark recommendations, the core landing zone implements the following. First, list privilege and segregation of duties through compartments, groups, and policies. The foundation security network design with proper routing, security rules, and VCN flow logs. Provide control over your encryption keys using the OCI Vault service. It provides operational awareness of things that are changing the infrastructure using OCI events and notifications. CIS mandates that we have notifications for IAM and networking events. And, last but not least, security posture monitoring with CloudGuard as basically a detective security control for insecure configuration and suspicious activities. But we also have these add-ons that we think are, very, very important from like a customer deployment perspective. So we extended those benchmark recommendations to include things like support for distinct user populations using OCI identity domains. We extended that foundational network design to support, hub and spoke topology, so where you can bring your own firewall and deploy it, and also deploy zero trust packet routing policies. We create some pre-configured VCNs for Kubernetes and Exadata cloud workloads. The core landing zone enables vulnerability scanning for compute instances. It sets the environment for SIEM integration, right, using a service called the Service Connector Hub, native OCI service. It extends that operational awareness about IAM and networking resources to other resources in OCI, right? It goes beyond detective security controls with CloudGuard to include proactive security controls with OCI security zones. It provides proactive cost management with the budget service, so we can tell customers about how much they are spending, right? And again, last but not least, we provide the ability to extend the core landing zone deployment across multiple regions for redundant deployments. All right, without that, but how we effectively lay down all those features in a cohesive deployment architecture, and this is what we have in the screen right now. The architecture basically deploys compartments for common IT areas like networking, security, application, database. Optionally, we have a compartment for Exadata infrastructure deployments, the one on the far right, the red one. And these compartments are all surrounded by an enclosing compartment, the dark gray here, right? That essentially defines one landing zone boundary. These compartments, they host specific resources that are managed by specific groups of users through OCI IAM policies. So while compartments provide the overall structure, groups and policies add segregation of duties, always honoring the least privilege principle. And landing zone, by the way, can reuse any existing groups, including those that are synchronized from an external federated identity provider. Landing zone also enables some key security services in OCI, like CloudGuard and security zones. CloudGuard is enabled at the tenancy level, and while security zone is enabled at the enclosing compartment level as the best practice. And other security-related services like Vault service, vulnerability scanning, logging, service connector, bastion service, zipper namespaces, they are deployed upon request, of course. User has to request them from a landing zone deployment perspective. They're all deployed in the security compartment under the security admin group management. And within each compartment, the landing zone deploys a notification framework built out of events, alarms, topics, notifications to proactively notify people about changes in the infrastructure. Networking, very key aspect, right? So upon request, the landing zone can provision up to 10 VCNs, 10 virtual networks, being 3 optimized for traditional 3-tier applications, 3 optimized for Kubernetes applications, and 3 optimized for Exadata workloads, with all the routing and the security rules pre-configured. The one missing VCN here, right? I said 10, but 3 times 3 gives us 9. The one that's missing here is a hub or a DMZ VCN that we use in advanced topologies. And we're going to take a look at this in the next slide. These VCNs, they can be all or selectively peered together through a new or an existing router that we call dynamic routing gateway. That could be like already connected back to your on-premises infrastructure. So we can reuse that. Oh, by the way, the landing zone can also help you enabling fast connect or IPsec VPNs, to connect your tenancy to your data center. And we see some grayed out resources components here, especially in the blue, in the pink, and in the red compartments. They are not deployed by landing zone, but they basically represent the workload supporting resources that you deploy later, right? Once your landing zone is in place, right? So this is how here we clearly show the landing zone being a runway, right? Where you can further come and deploy and land, right, your workloads on top. And something else to be aware is that the core landing zone configuration has been certified by Center for Internet Security. So here we expand the network compartment showing the hub or the DMZ VCN on the left-hand side. When connected to the same DRG with as the other VCNs, we have a hub-spoke topology. So in the hub VCN, we typically, or the DMZ VCN, however you want to call it, we typically deploy a network appliance for traffic inspection into or out of from the spoke VCNs. And core landing zone can also deploy Palo Alto firewall and FortiGate in active mode, right? Or you can also bring your own existing pre-configured network appliance and deploy it together with the landing zone or separately as a post landing zone deployment step. Or you can also deploy the OCI network firewall, which is a managed service provided by OCI with built-in redundancy. All right, the core landing zone, it provides all that, right? All that we saw in these diagrams very quickly after just filling some input variables and going through the typical Terraform plan apply workflow. And the core landing zone follows what we call a single stack model or programmatic style. In the sense, there is a Terraform configuration with some logic embedded that processes those input variables and deploys. In addition to command line Terraform, core landing zone can also be deployed via the OCI Resource Manager service, where a graphical user interface is provided, as we can see in the left-hand side on this slide here at the bottom. But at the same time, we understand that the core landing zone blueprint does not satisfy every tenancy design requirement. So the framework also provides what we call declarative style landing zones that can be freely assembled from one to multiple stacks, multiple Terraform stacks. In this case, developers are in full absolute control on how their landing zone is shaped. This is like if you're writing the Terraform configuration yourself, right? But what are the key differentiators here? Basically, this declarative style landing zone lets you declare your landing zone configurations in JSON or YAML documents with dependency management. For instance, you can generically bring in compartments of one stack into the network stack without knowing any internal OCI IDs, right? And these JSON-based or YAML-based declarations are processed by the very same underlying Terraform modules used in core landing zone. And the outcome here is the ability to build your own landing zone without having to understand the intricacies of OCI resource types in the OCI Terraform provider. This paradigm, by the way, is extensively used by the operating entities landing zone blueprints. And here on the right-hand side at the bottom, we see a JSON snippet of a VCN declaration. Okay, now let's switch gears a little bit because I really want to talk about this other very key component of the overall framework. That's the CIS compliance script that basically checks for CIS benchmark compliance. The script loops across all tenancy subscribed regions, looking at the OCI resources on all these areas, right? Benchmark requirements, the big bubbles up, and what we call Oracle best practices, the little bubbles at the bottom piece. The script is a Python script, very simple to run, and it provides at the end a summary with all the findings, grouping them according to the CIS benchmark guidelines. And you use it for things like, let's say you deploy a customized landing zone, and you want to make sure about any architectural drifts, so you don't, get out of compliance. Or you can basically do any spot checks before going live, right, with some implementation. And, of course, it's totally independent of whether you deployed your tenancy with the landing zone or not. You can use it against any existing OCI deployment. And as the core landing zone Terraform configuration that we saw before, the script has also been certified by Center for Internet Security. All right, now I'm gonna show you folks two demonstrations. One, how we deploy the core landing zone using the OCI Resource Manager service, and then how we run the CIS compliance script or CIS compliance checker. So here we are in the GitHub of the core landing zone. We have that button that deploys to Oracle Cloud. When we click that, we essentially invoke the OCI Resource Manager service, and that service pulls in the Terraform configuration from GitHub, right? I have to acknowledge here that I have reviewed and accept the Oracle terms of use. So it loaded the code, the Terraform code. I give it a name, right? I select a compartment where I want this stack, this resource manager stack to be, okay? And I hit next. I give this landing zone deployment a name, like this is gonna be my core LZ landing zone. I want to define some networking configuration here. So I click define networking. I ask to add one VCN. I want this landing zone with one VCN. I put the CIDR in, or I just take the default. I put in an email here. It could be a distribution email, so I can be notified about network events and security/IAM events. These are CIS requirements, so we make them mandatory in the UI, right? We are going to enable CloudGuard. We are going to enable security zones. We are going to do log consolidation. We want all tenancy logs to be sent to a streaming to be further consumed by an external SIEM service. We are going to enable the vulnerability scanning service, so all compute instances are scanned. We are going to set up a budget, and we are going to provide an email here so we can be notified about budget overruns. And we click next. As a best practice here, we disable this run apply because we want to run a Terraform plan. Take a look at the plan and just then apply. At this point in time, the stack is ready. We click plan. So we're essentially running the Terraform workflow through the OCI Resource Manager service. So we hit plan, it's planning, and it goes off. And at the end, it tells us, oh, it succeeded, and I'm about to create 101 resource. Right? We, as a best practice, we would take a look at the plan. If we're okay with that, we hit apply. We pick the plan that we just created, and then we hit apply. And now this is when rubber meets the road, and we are effectively deploying the OCI core landing zone into that tenancy. And fortunately, it succeeded. Apply is complete. 101 resources have been created, right? And we have that basically picture that architecture diagram that I showed you folks first, right? We essentially have all those that compartment structure with the groups, with the policies, with the security services, with one VCN, where you can essentially now just deploy your application, right, on that VCN. So you have your runway, you have your landing zone. Now just go ahead and land your workloads. Second demo is a demo about the CIS compliance checker. So here I'm going to use the Cloud Shell, which which is basically your private Linux terminal in OCI. So I'm going to create a folder here. Get into that folder. Remember, this is a Python script. So I am now here downloading that script from the GitHub repo, right? It's been downloaded. Now I am essentially going to execute it. So it's very simple. Python, the script name, -obp checks for Oracle best practices. Now it's looping through, all the subscribed regions in this tenancy. So it's looking at identity domains, compartments, logs, key usage, events, subscriptions, networking, a lot of stuff, right? So at the end, it gives us this report, right? We can see all the findings, if we are in compliance or not, right? There is a section for the CIS benchmark requirements and for the Oracle best practices. And now I zip it up, all it gave me back, right? And then I am going to download it to my local machine directly from Cloud Shell, right? So we can better look at what it got us back, right? So we're downloading it now. Then we extract it. And then we take one of those CSV. Oh, first of all, we're going to take a look at the HTML file that basically provides us the big picture, right? With, it's the report in HTML. And then we can pick one of the findings, right, where we're not compliant. So here we have one. There's a CSV file associated with each finding. We click that, it opens up the file for us. And within each file, there's a deep link. When you click, it will get you, in OCI console in front of that finding. So you can pretty quickly remediate it. In this case here, there's this test. So, and this is basically about a policy that is kind of too open according to our standards. So if you look at the statements here, you see that it allows some group to manage everything in a compartment. And that's something we want to avoid. So you would have like to basically, remove this policy and provide more resource-specific policies. With that, I conclude this presentation and I hand it over to Stan.
All right. Thank you, Andre and Josh, for an awesome session. We really appreciate your time and help, and I hope this was a good learning experience for everyone. Okay, before we conclude, I want to leave you with a comprehensive set of resources to continue your journey into OCI security, covering everything from foundational knowledge to hands-on practice. For structured learning and validation, please explore the Oracle University and Cloud Training, the Oracle Guided Learning Paths, and the Oracle Certification Programs. To apply those skills, leveraging the Oracle Cloud, you can use the Oracle free tier environments and work through the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure tutorials. In addition, you can engage in live labs or you utilize Code Innovate for accelerated guided development. Finally, for definitive technical details and architectural-based best practices, refer to the official Oracle Cloud documentation, the comprehensive OCI Cloud Adoption Framework, and the real-world examples found in the Build and Deploy and the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Architecture Center resources. Okay. Do we please go to the next slide? If you enjoyed this session and would like us to conduct personalized training sessions for your organization, do email us at our personal training email and we'll reach out to you. If you want us to conduct just a hands-on lab, we have a newly designed Quick Shot Live Labs program for a more expedited hands-on learning experience for specific cloud topics. Under the Code Innovate program, we co-develop a solution based on your own use case. Please remember that personal training is an investment we make in our customers to help them grow and develop their OCI skills at no extra cost to them. In this session, you'll be introduced to the fundamentals on identity and access management and how to start your account off correctly with best practices. With that, thanks for joining today's session and have a wonderful day.